Today begins the start of our feel-good story of the year. Child abuse, sex trafficking, corrupt police, the story contains it all. We'll start by discussing Dean Corll's childhood, his mother's poor track record of marriages, and his family's business. Hey, who's that man giving out candy to kids? Oh, that's just old Dean. Don't mind him. He means no harm. Or does he? I'm Mike.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Dave. If you thought we had already covered the worst of the worst, stick around, because now we have a new entry in the biggest piece of shit category. This is Necronomipod.
Today, the father of one of the dead boys showed up at police headquarters to ask David Brooks how his son died and if he suffered much pain. He was told he may be allowed to meet with Brooks in private at a later date. His son disappeared in December 1971 following an evening church service he attended.
I feel animosity, I really do. After all, what person wouldn't feel some animosity? But the mother of this boy, Henley, I know that she's going through probably the same things we are, and people shouldn't try to condemn the mother for what the son has done. Although my animosity, I'm deeply grieved, and I have great animosity of what I'd like to do, but yet I go back that the vengeance.
Well, this is going to be an Ian heavy episode, I think. Dave and I are moving slow.
Yeah.
Fucking heat got us today.
We're at the county fair, heat stroking out. Ian made the wise choice and did not join us at the fair.
It was so humid. It was like, what, 92, 93 degrees outside?
I don't like summer. It's awful.
It's the worst. There's so many people. It wasn't bad when we first got there, but then by the end, you know, or like an hour or two later when it starts getting closer to like dinner time, there's just so many people.
It was too hot to eat.
Yeah. I felt sick.
We left and went to sushi after instead.
Is that in some air condition?
That's great.
I initially didn't go because I'm trying to be healthy and I didn't want to be around all the sweets like cotton candy and candy apples, all that stuff.
There's literally not one healthy thing there.
No.
I didn't eat anything there, so I was fine.
But then, yeah, when I went outside and felt how hot it was, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not going.
I was like, hour and a half. I'm like, I got to go. I've hit my limit here.
Yeah, it's so hot. Like nothing looks appetizing or tastes good.
I would have gotten my candy apple to go home. I would have ate it later.
Probably would have melted by the time you got to your car.
It's true.
A lot of neck bearding going on up there, too.
Well, it's...
Oh, yeah?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's a different type of crowd, to say the least. Yeah, I'm exhausted. I kicked my ass. I felt sick earlier. I just start feeling physically ill when I'm hot. I'm a pansy when it comes to summertime.
That's true. Can't confirm.
I save my bitching for the summer. You won't hear me complain at all in the wintertime. Give me all the snow.
Yeah, I don't complain at all.
You don't even ski?
I don't ski.
That's what I said.
Do you want me to ski? Should I be skiing? I go ice skate.
That's up to you, man. I'm just saying.
Have you been skiing? I've never skied. I've water skied.
I used to ski when I was a much younger man. My skiing days are far behind me now.
Or you don't want to end up like Sonny Bobo.
I do not.
It's from The Office.
I mean, Ohio, New York skiing. It's not Colorado skiing.
Hey, skiing though, pal. You were doing it.
I hear the people out west snickering as we talk about skiing in Ohio.
You did a ski. Have you ever been skiing?
No.
Water skiing? Like wakeboarding, anything like that?
Mm-mm.
I was not good at water skiing. I was not good at staying above the water.
I was inexplicably really good at skiing from the very get-go. I felt it was very much like ice skating with how you kind of have to shift your balance and kind of keep it on the skis. And if you want to go, just kind of put a little more pressure. Once I learned how to like get out of the water, because you have to let the boat pull you up and out.
Exactly.
And that's not natural to like want to be pulled forward.
That's right.
And once you learn like just to let the boat bring you to a stand, and then like after a while I was just like, okay, do I just let go now? Like I'm clearly not going to fall. What do I do?
It's like driving a stick shift. Once you get it,
right.
Once you get the motion, it's easy.
You got it down. Yeah. So that's a little bit about us. How are you listeners doing at home? Hopefully you poured yourself a cocktail or a weed, because the next 3 weeks are going to get a little crazy.
A little dark.
Very little fun.
Like really bad.
Yeah, there's nothing good.
No, nothing at all good in this story.
This has been a highly requested subject, though, for a while. People have been wanting us to do him because we have sick fuck listeners. We could be talking about happy things. No, they want Dean Corll.
Like unicorns?
Sure. You want to do an episode on unicorns? That could be fun.
I'd love to.
That we need to get like a like some kind of creepy pasta on unicorns, like one that turns evil and just starts stabbing people with its horn.
Like an undercover unicorn that's really bad.
Maybe something
Breaking Bad unicorn.
like a unicorn does a heel turn and fucking just starts attacking people.
like cornholing people with the with its thing.
Like the rainbow turns to like dripping blood, like a blood rainbow.
I bet you we could do a whole episode on unicorns.
Yeah?
I bet you we could.
Okay.
There's like Bible references to unicorns, like weird, like one-horned animals talked about.
Intriguing.
I'm a one-horned animal.
Yeah.
I don't have it on my head.
Well, I know from Harry Potter there's no greater sin than killing a unicorn because it's 100% pure and innocent.
It's true. There's it's like Genghis Khan that was really after a unicorn horn.
Really? Oh, I don't know.
I think so. That sounds right. I don't know why I know so much about unicorns.
So it could be a fun Patreon show.
Yeah. Right. Bonus episode.
Well, he did enough fucking. Like 10% of the world can trace their lineage to Genghis Khan. So
I'm pretty sure
he was doing
like
something.
But he couldn't find the unicorn horn. That was his white whale.
I think he was like really after one. Like he really wanted one.
This unicorn story's getting better. I'm up for it now. Genghis Khan's cool. I mean, not for the people he slaughtered, but it's a good story.
All right. Well, that's all the laughing we'll have tonight. Let's jump on in.
So Dean Corll is different than any other serial killer we've talked about because of how his story plays out. There are no interviews with Dean and there was no trial. Regarding Dean's early life, all we have to go off of is what his mother told the public about Dean. Dean's father and his siblings never spoke a word to reporters, and his mother ends up taking denial to a whole different level.
Even greater than Mrs. Bundy, because she was pretty good on the denial trip.
Even more so than
all right, here we go.
Mrs. Bundy. Because she just didn't want to believe it. She
wouldn't hear of it.
But she didn't make excuses for him in public. Her thing was like, I just can't even imagine that he would do that type thing.
Like head in the sand kind of thing.
Yeah. Mary West is like, absolutely not.
Okay.
Dean is a perfect boy. Dean Corll was born on December 24th, 1939 in Fort Wayne, Indiana to Mary Robinson and Arnold Corll. Arnold was very strict, but Mary made sure to point out that he was not abusive. Mary said that Arnold would make Dean and his younger brother sit in timeout for longer than she was comfortable with and for stuff that she thought was minor. Mary used an example of Dean climbing on the toilet to the sink as an example of what would get him put in timeout.
Just hearing about timeout in the 40s is a shock. I thought it was belt buckle time in the 40s,
Sure, just
right?
beat your kid.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's very progressive in my book. Timeouts in the 40s.
And
No, I was not alive in the 40s, so let me stop you right there,
I
Mike.
wasn't even going to go there. I was just trying to think about climbing up on a sink. I feel like the sink is just break. Maybe they were built better back then, though.
Everything was built better back then.
People gave a shit about their work. They took pride in their craftsmanship.
I don't know what to make of this because it's coming from Mary. All this comes from her. So it sounds a little made up to me, the way she describes it, especially when you go into detail, like reading about her in the book, The Candyman. She's just really elaborate about this whole timeout thing. She goes on and on about how, Arnold would just, make those boys sit in that chair for so long. And it's like, I feel like Arnold was probably beating both of them with a belt, like you said.
Making them sit in a chair is not really that awful. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't think timeout was a thing in the 40s.
Wasn't invented yet.
I don't think it was.
Like she talks about how the boys would want, Dean and his brother would want to go outside and play. And they're like, they were scared to ask their dad. They had to make sure they'd come and ask me to go outside because I'd let them go play. I'm like, well, that seems a little harsh. They can't go outside.
Right.
So
not buying it.
Mary and Arnold got divorced in 1946, and Mary said it was because they fought too much and just decided to go their separate ways. No hard feelings, it just wasn't working out, which seems to be accurate. Arnold got drafted into the Air Force and was stationed in Memphis, Tennessee. So to make sure that Dean and his brother were close to their father, Mary sold the house in Indiana and moved to Memphis.
Didn't you get draft deferments when you had kids during that time?
I don't remember specifically.
I was trying to look at it today. I couldn't find it either. I mean, it's post-war.
So it's post-war.
Like the World War II draft ended in 47. So I'm not sure. It seems like post-war draft, you'd probably
Maybe he didn't want a deferment, Dave.
Maybe not. That's a good point.
Yeah, he might have just wanted to head out.
He's like, oh, sorry, gotta go.
And she sold the house and moved there.
Right.
He's like, fuck.
Like he printed up a fake draft card, draft notice.
According to Mary, Dean was a shy kid who didn't socialize with other kids. Mary said that Dean's younger brother would go out running around with other kids, but Dean never wanted to leave and play. She said that Dean would play with kids if his brother had friends over, but Dean didn't go out of his way to play with other kids. Mary said that Dean's shyness stemmed back to a birthday party he went to when he was 6 years old and didn't win a prize, and all the other kids did.
Well, it's not fair. I get it.
How do you not just give that one kid like a little something?
Yeah, right.
Everyone else got something? Come on.
Probably stand in the corner crying. You can't give him a fucking bouncy ball or something.
Was every adult a piece of shit in the 40s?
Couple marbles. What do they play with in the 40s?
I think that's it. And teddy bears. That was it.
That Red Ryder BB gun that the kid from Christmas Story wanted.
What was the game? Jacks?
Hey, bounce a ball, pick up the
grab it,
jacks.
yeah.
Hey, Jacks when I was a kid.
Maybe that's what it was, Jacks. Can you imagine kids nowadays? Like, they wouldn't have the attention span. They'd be like, what the fuck is this? This is stupid. Get this the fuck out of my face.
Just throws them at their parents.
I want to go play Call of Duty now.
When Dean was 7 years old, Mary said he developed rheumatic fever, which is an inflammatory disease that can affect the heart, joints, skin, and brain, and it's usually a result of getting strep throat. That was never diagnosed or anything. That's just what Mary said. Dean really did have a heart murmur, and that's what Mary said caused the heart murmur, and that murmur was diagnosed in 1950. Also in 1950, Arnold Corll was honorably discharged from the Air Force and ended up remarrying Mary, and the family moved to Pasadena, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston. Things didn't work out again for Arnold and Mary, and they got another divorce in 1953. The divorce was peaceful, and Dean and his younger brother stayed in regular contact with their father. Dean's grandmother on his mother's side lived in a farm in Indiana, and Dean and his brother would go out there for summers. Regarding sex, Mary said that the boys learned everything they needed to know about sex on the farm. She didn't need to teach them anything. When I was a kid, I did not have like this weird sit down like birds and bees talk, but I would argue that getting your sex education from watching two farm animals fuck is not the proper way to go about it.
It's probably not the healthiest.
Are you sure she didn't mean they were fucking the animals?
She could have.
I just asked the question, sir.
Yeah, in the book she says like, what else does a boy need to know after being on a farm for a summer?
Good job, Mom.
Maybe this was Mike's experience. He couldn't see the pig clits, so he assumed the clits don't exist.
Do I seem like the kind of guy that would ever be on a farm, Dave?
Well, your sports and music taste would lead me to believe otherwise.
I don't think
Your boot scooting, bush drinking ass seems like it came right off the farm.
I don't think anybody listening to this show has any idea what my actual music taste is, because I don't talk about my actual music taste. And that Bush Light was one time for a chance to win all glory, and I failed miserably. But it's true, pigs don't have clits, and nobody on this earth does.
Nobody on this earth does. That's definitive. You heard it here.
It seems like that leads to trouble a bit. Remember Peter Curtin? That's where he learned about sex.
That's right.
That dog catcher was fucking those dogs in front of him.
Man, like, you want to try?
Sure don't.
Man, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
he like lived in this apartment when he was like 8, and this dog catcher upstairs would kill these dogs and fuck them and stuff. And
Yeah.
Sounds like quality podcast content.
Oh, it was.
I'm sure our sick fuck listeners loved it.
Mary was really good at baking, specifically pralines. Pretty much right after the second divorce, Mary met a traveling clock salesman named Jake West while he was selling clocks. The two of them hit it off, got married, and moved to Vidor, Texas to start a candy company selling Mary's pralines. Sally Defty from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch went down to Vidor after shit hit the fan for Dean Corll, and she summed up the town writing, quote, "There are some nice people, but essentially it's the kind of place where the big event for the kids is to pour kerosene on the cat and set it afire. It's the kind of place where nobody cares about civil rights and everyone cares about the high school football team." Vidor, Texas was also a sundown town, meaning that black people were not welcome after dark. Under the city limit sign, there was another sign that said, the very ugly slur, "Get your ass out of town by sundown." There was a lot of that going on back in this time frame.
I have no doubt.
Still some going on today.
Which is just crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like that there are pockets of this country like that still.
I sent you guys that article with that young guy that was traveling around and doing stuff like a vlog kind of thing, and went into a place in Kentucky to get gas, and the guy working said, "You better not be here after sundown."
It's unbelievable. So I don't know if you guys remember this, that Vidor, Texas is about an hour away from Jasper, Texas, where in 1998, that guy's name was James Byrd Jr. was like dragged through town and killed by the 3 white guys. You remember that?
I don't
Like hook him up to a
that.
chain in the back of a pickup truck and drug him miles through town.
Yeah, we're not talking about great people in this story at all.
Well, and the entire town's IQ doesn't add up to 100. You know, all these dumb fucks.
Yeah, these aren't like even booming place. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing there.
Just dead backwoods places.
Right. But even if the 3 of us walked into a town like that, we would be questioned.
Sure. So we have all our teeth.
Form sentences.
Like no outsiders are really welcome.
Sure.
You know?
I get that. Look, I've been in, one time we were down the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky in the early days of GPS, and the GPS was not working properly. It was like taking, like Michael Scott driving us into a river, but we ended up in just this barely a road place with good old boys with shotguns who I presume were guarding their weed fields. And I'm like, we got to get the fuck out of here because nothing good was going on back there.
Yeah, so it's like that. You're already perceived as an outsider.
Sure.
Then if you're a black person, it's
Dangerous.
it's a terrible situation.
Absolutely.
To even
You're an
go.
outsider and not wanted in general, and there's no one that's going to stop them from doing what they want to do to you.
Look, this is the 50s, so I mean,
Yeah.
you know what was going on down in the South in the 50s.
Yeah, I mean that sign
Yeah.
right next to the city sign.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of it online. It's fucking crazy to even think that something like that would have happened.
Yeah.
Is that sign still there? Or did they finally take it down?
I don't think it's there. I think they put some money into Vidor, at least a little bit, trying to boom it up. But you're talking, what, 50s? There's a lot of those people are still alive. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
It's not like all these people have died off and not passed on their stupid beliefs.
And they're not listening to us because they don't have cell phones there, so they don't know what a podcast is. They could spruce it up all you want, but you can't polish a turd.
So Dean went to Vidor High School from 1954 to 1958, where he was known as a model student who got good grades. Dean was still quiet and a loner, and because of the heart murmur, he couldn't play sports, so he joined the band and played trombone. Dean also had a habit of killing flying squirrels and putting them on a chain around his neck or like stuff them down in his cowboy boots, which is really fucking weird, but in Vidor, and according to Mary, it's just boys being boys, and Dean just liked killing squirrels.
Who doesn't kill an occasional squirrel and stuff them in their boots? It's not weird.
What's the size of a flying squirrel that you can wear it as a necklace?
I mean,
Are they smaller than regular squirrels?
No, they're
It's like this hanging down.
that's
looks like a tie, like a furry tie, right?
they're probably like that big.
But then they have long tails.
The way I picture is he had like fucking 6 flying squirrels on a chain and just threw it over his
Like
shoulders.
he was a trapper, like a beaver fur trapper or something.
So fucking weird. Like I didn't know if flying squirrels were like maybe more like chipmunk size, and you just like wear them all. So this guy's just wearing like giant ass squirrels on his neck.
Good thing you didn't go to college with Dean, right? When you were doing your flying squirrel naked in front of the door, he would have got you.
You got to be careful.
Stuffed you in his cowboy boot.
There's a lot of things you got to worry about when you're going to surprise people and open the door, and punch level is your ball sack. You got to be a brave man. It's not for the weak.
You are nothing if not brave, my friend.
The candy company initially was ran out of the family's garage, with Dean and his brother running the machinery and packaging the candy. Then Jake West would sell the candy on the road, mainly in Houston. After Dean graduated high school in 1958, the family moved to Houston Heights so they could be closer to where the candies were being sold. At the time, Houston Heights was a very impoverished neighborhood outside of Houston. Kind of hit the pause button on Dean's early life and get into 1970s Houston, because the Houston Police Department is the sole reason why someone like Dean Corll was able to do what he did, and just kind of the state of Houston at the time. Back in the 50s, Houston was a rapidly growing city. A lot of money was being put into the downtown area, but like a lot of cities, there's 2 versions of Houston. Outside of the booming downtown area, crime pretty much went unchecked. In 1957, Houston had the highest murder rate in the U.S., earning it the nickname Murder City, or sometimes Murder Town. In that time, and during the time of Dean Corll's murders, the Houston Police Department was pretty much non-existent unless you were wealthy and white. At the time of Dean Corll, Houston had about 1.3 million residents and 2,200 police officers to handle everything.
I read in 1957 there were 136 murders.
Just in that one time, just in that 1 year.
Mm-hmm. But on top of that, only 27 went to trial. So shows you what they were up to there. They weren't closing many cases.
That's what I want. I want Law and Order, 1950s Houston police. Just them like just jerking around all day.
Dun, 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 dun,
By
dun.
3 o'clock, they're at happy hour at the bar. Day's over. Their ties are undone. It'll be the Law and Order logo, but like over like, what is it? Like over the R in order, there's like a cowboy hat. Chin chin. 9 a.m. clocks in. Chin chin. 3 o'clock, drunk at the bar already. Day's over. Cases solved, 0. Files opened, 0.
Shots done.
Missing people, none. We found reasons.
Those police officers were significantly underpaid compared to other major cities in the U.S. Almost every police officer on the Houston force had a second part-time job to make ends meet. The caseloads were so heavy and the pay was so little, the police pretty much just gave up on everything unless it involved a, quote, important person, aka rich and white. Police were ordered to not make more than 2 arrests per day because they couldn't afford to do the paperwork. So I think that goes to your point of only 27 trials. They were straight up told, don't create more paperwork.
It was weird. I also read that they weren't real good on convicting women for murder. So if you were a woman and you committed murder, they let you off most of the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Just for a hand job. And that's
So,
it, right?
Seems like in the 50s in Houston, Texas would be the best time for a woman to commit a murder because the chances of you going to jail were pretty slim.
You also think back then, too, they were like, because of how, fucked up these people were, they were racist. I'm sure they were sexist. Like, oh, a woman could never kill anyone. That's a man. A woman couldn't kill a man.
I'm sure that has
Case closed.
I'm 99% sure that at least happened once for a case of murder where a woman killed someone. They're like, no way.
Yeah, it's a woman.
That ain't gonna happen.
She was in the kitchen all day. How could she kill him?
Good work, guys. You want to go to the bar? That was the most work we've done in 4 years.
I feel like there's a lot of Texas disparaging going on here, but I really do like I've been to Texas several times. I like Texas a lot.
It's okay. It is a weird feeling in Texas.
Yeah. It's different. There's some
They
different
really
things.
think the world revolves around them.
They do. They think that their own country.
Yeah. Like it's a different, like it's very nice people, but it's a different vibe there.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's Texas and then there's everybody else.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. Just a different vibe down there. Houston, I've had fun in Houston before. I went to WrestleMania 25 there and partied downtown with a bunch of people from Europe. There was English people and Irish people.
That's fun.
Had a fucking great time there.
Like Austin's really cool.
Austin's a fun town.
I've been to San Antonio, really cool.
I've not been to
so
San
fucking
Antonio.
hot. That was like 118 when I was
I
there.
think that was like that today at the fair. That's about right.
So hot.
So they were told not to arrest more than 2 people because they couldn't afford to do the paperwork. The Missing Persons Division didn't investigate cases. They took the name down and they would let the family know if their missing loved one got arrested and showed up in the Houston system or if they died. Other than that, it was nothing. They were just...
Jeez.
It's better off not even reporting them as missing.
Yeah.
They read the obituaries every day, like, how many cases can we close?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Later in the series, we'll talk about letters Dean forced young boys to write their parents. Those parents would take the letter to the police and say, like, my son did not write this. Please look at it. And the police would say, oh, well, you heard from your son, so obviously he's not missing. And they would just take that kid off the missing persons report.
Case cleared.
Regarding the homicide department, at the time of Dean Corll, the department consisted of 42 detectives. These guys were to handle every type of crime in the cities besides drug-related offenses, partly because regular police officers refused to look into cases and made a game out of who could get out of work the earliest, and partly because Police Chief Herman Short had a hard-on for busting people for marijuana.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Dreaded marijuana. That's from Reefer Madness.
That reminded me, too, when you said hell. I've been listening to some Art Bell stuff. Just getting ready for October. You can never start too soon. And I'm listening to Open Lines for the Antichrist.
There you go.
And the first time caller line, he designated for if you're the Antichrist, call. And so many people have been calling wanting to talk about the Antichrist, but not identifying as the Antichrist. And he's getting so pissed. And he's hanging up on all these people. He's like, well, then you broke the rules, didn't you? Click.
Sir, if you're not the Antichrist.
Well, then why did you call this line? Well, I wanted to talk about click. You will not break the rules on my show. And so many people fucking call with their radios on. Anyways, I don't know if it was the first time he had played it, but on this show was when he played the sounds from hell.
Oh, yeah.
And that clip always is just, it's creepy.
It is creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hole dug into Russia, right?
That's right.
And went 9 miles into the earth.
Something like that.
And I think we play it. We've played it on Art Bell shows before, and then we just did it recently on our Terrifying Sounds, right? Patreon show. Yeah. But it's allegedly audio from the sounds of hell, and it, sounds like a high school gymnasium, but still creepy.
Homicide detectives told Jack Olson for his book, The Man with the Candy, that they would get transferred a call where a woman was getting beaten by her husband, and they would have to say, look, we have a stack of murders here. You're on your own. If you were black, you were on your own no matter what the situation was. From that interview with a homicide detective in the book, The Man with the Candy, said, quote, Lieutenant, I've got a real fine murder case for you. I want you to get your ass out there and knock on doors and ring some telephones. I don't want you fucking around in the office. That detective, boss, I ain't prejudiced, but is it white or N-word? Lieutenant, it's white. Now get out there.
Presumably, because if it wasn't white, they wouldn't even bother sending him out there.
No, absolutely not.
He's like, why do you think I'm talking to you? You got to get out on this one.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's like, would I even come to you if it wasn't a white person?
But boss, it's 2-for-1 wings night at the bar. Well, you'll be there by 4:00.
I'm guessing this police strategy was not unique to Houston, though, in this day and age.
No, of course not.
We're talking about Houston, but I'm sure they weren't the only one.
Oh, no.
Well, we just almost had the same conversation during the Anthony Sowell in Cleveland, and that was, 10 years ago?
That's true.
It was the poor, black, the sex workers,
Sure.
and they didn't give a shit.
Gladys Wade, they told her you got to come down to the office. Just like the guy in the detective in the book used a domestic violence thing, told the woman, you have to come here to file.
Yeah. All right.
That's the same thing happened in Cleveland 10 years ago.
Yeah, so clearly this isn't specific to there.
No, not at all.
And clearly this is still happening today.
100%.
Probably more so than we want to think about in major cities across the country.
There's a lot of things in Dean Corll's story and stuff we'll talk about in part 2, kind of bring up in the end here a little bit. That's like, this is so long ago. Things have changed, but they really haven't. Yeah. They really haven't. It's like some of this stuff we'll get into. It's like I can't imagine something like that happening today, but yeah, definitely does.
I think there's a lot of denial. People living out in the suburbs don't think this kind of stuff happens.
But like we literally told the story of Anthony Soul. And it's not even fair to say that it was just in the South. There were obviously times back like 50s, 60s where the South had its issues, but this was in Cleveland, Ohio. It's happening. It can happen everywhere. It's not just to pick on the South. This one just happens to be in the South and in Houston. So we're going to shit on you a little bit.
There was an easy fix for all of these issues. There was tons of federal money allocated for police departments, so this kind of shit wouldn't happen. As far as them being like overworked and, they wouldn't have had an excuse to say we can't have a missing persons department and stuff like that. However, Police Chief Herman Short refused any of that money, saying that he didn't want a handout from the government. Instead of having the officers that were willing to work help people like that woman in a domestic violence situation, Chief Short used those officers to stop and frisk for marijuana or to raid gay bars and bathhouses because, according to Chief Smart, they were all child molesters. All gay people were child molesters.
Chief Herman Short sounds like a swell individual.
Back to Dean's early life. Dean graduated in 1958, and the family opened a physical candy shop outside of their garage called Pecan Prince. Dean continued to work for his mother day and night until 1960 when his grandfather died. When Dean's grandfather on his mother's side died, Dean went out to Indiana to help his grandmother on her farm. While he was living in Indiana, Dean started a relationship with a young woman, but when she brought up marriage in 1962, Dean left and moved back to Houston.
I wonder if he just missed fucking those farm animals and that's why he went back.
You think he was fucking farm animals?
I don't know. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility.
No, I mean, anything is open here because we just know this very skewed version of things.
Like this is through his mother's lens years later after everything's said and done. I don't know that I believe in all this, right?
I'll pull some quotes for part 3 from Mary's letter that she wrote after all this. The denial is like mind-numbing in there. So I don't believe a lot of this stuff about Dean's childhood. Like he was just this great shy kid.
Look, no one wants to believe their kid is capable of doing some of the things we're going to talk about, but so you can understand it
to a degree.
Yeah.
The following year, in 1963, Mary divorced Jake West and started a new candy company called Corll Candy Company.
That's some sweet alliteration there, huh, Mike?
Good stuff.
You like that?
I do like it. Triple C.
You should set like the Cuckold Candy Company. Some good alliteration like that.
And it's just, we only sell suckers that are the shape of my cock. Incidentally, only the wives are buying them.
How about like candied cream pied cooters candy?
There you go.
It's not bad.
Under
right?
my company, or that's your own company?
That's your company.
Okay, candied cream pie cooters. Well, I think that's just something we sell onto the Cuckold Candy Company. Fun for the whole family. Delicious treats.
You bite into it and it's just like cream filled, runs all out of your mouth on your chin.
It's perfect. It goes down all like onto your tits. They're made to like just explode. It's like a gusher.
Dean moved into an apartment above the shop and ran the machinery day and night. It was also in this year that there were the first hints of issues to come. In 1963, a teenage employee of the candy store went to Mary to complain about Dean sexually harassing him. Like Dean wouldn't stop when this kid said no. Mary flipped out and fired the kid, and nothing came of it.
You never fun to work like with the owner's kid, right?
No.
Like nothing good can come of that.
I'm trying to think if I've ever really had that experience, though. I don't think I have, fortunately.
Like you're never going to win an argument.
No.
Always going to take the kid's side.
Right. Your best bet would be like not if you're getting, assaulted, but in a regular scenario, you buddy up to that kid and you probably can get away with anything you wanted.
Oh, yeah.
If you're at like a little
definitely.
shop, you steal all the Snickers bars and Yoo-Hoos that you wanted.
Yoo-Hoos.
I've never liked Yoo-Hoo.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah, I don't like that kind of stuff.
Uh-oh.
All right. We've spoken on that and just buried Yoo-Hoo.
On August 10th, 1964, Dean was drafted into the U.S. Army at the age of 24 and sent to Fort Polk, Louisiana for basic training. From there, Dean was sent to Fort Hood, Texas, where he worked as a radio repairman. Dean hated the Army, and his mother hated Dean being there. So Mary wrote a letter to the Army requesting that Dean be sent home to work at the candy shop because she couldn't handle it herself. The Army granted Dean his release, and on June 11th, 1965, Dean was honorably discharged. According to acquaintances after the fact, this was when Dean first accepted the fact that he was gay and had a relationship with a male soldier.
Pretty dangerous those days in the Army.
In 1965, the Corll Candy Company moved to a building directly across the street from Helms Elementary School. Dean made a habit of going out every day and handing out candy to all the school kids. Like the kids would line up in the back of the building. The principal of the school asked Dean to stop because kids were crossing the street unsafely, and it was generally causing an issue, but Dean didn't stop. And no one really thought anything of it. It was like, oh, Dean is such this sweetheart and so kind to these kids. Giving out the candy earned Dean the nickname the Candy Man, and some residents of the Heights called Dean the Pied Piper because of how kids followed him around.
Talk about a built-in sort of apparatus to find victims, right?
It's like the perfect.
They come to you, yeah.
Yeah, the perfect thing.
I mean, like I couldn't even go to the fair today because I'm trying to not eat candy because of my health. I would have been.
You'd have been fucking groomed even today.
I'm like, oh, there's free candy over there.
And he's got pet raccoons. Yeah, I'll be right there, pal.
Can I lick your balls, Dean? You got any nerds?
Your guys' thoughts on nerds?
I like nerd ropes. Those are real good.
Yeah.
I didn't love nerds.
I never liked them. The older I get, the more I kind of like them. Nerd ropes are really good. But I don't know. At the end. I didn't have anything to follow up. I just thought I'd go on that nerds run.
Skittles. No nerds.
I mean, who doesn't like Skittles?
I love Skittles.
Basic Skittles. Don't give me the tropical
So good.
or all those
I don't want any of that
those
bullshit.
spin-offs. Just the red bag Skittles, yeah. I prefer Starburst, but I love both. If I'm eating candy, I like the fruit candy, not the chocolate. I prefer the fruit over the chocolate.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. You too or no? What's always your go-to like chocolate candy bar? We talked candy bars before, but I can't remember.
$100,000 bar.
That's right.
It's the greatest
So that's
candy
your
that's ever
chocolate.
been invented.
So that's your number one, even over like a Skittles.
Oh, yeah. $100,000 bar.
Skittles 2?
$100,000, if you will.
I think it's called 100 grand now, yeah.
The old commercials in my day, they said the $100,000 bar.
Probably because they're like, we're not putting all that on a fucking candy bar. Look, we're making these candy bars smaller and paying people or charging people more. We need to come up with something quick.
$100,000.
Pretty soon it's just gonna be $100K.
That's right. $100,000 in Skittles.
Okay. Yeah, I always like the fruit better, like the fruit candy.
Starburst good too. Oh yeah.
And now they got like the bags with just like you can get like all red, and it's just like
Really?
and they're like mini, but it's like one of those like like gas station style bags, and you just open it's like different flavors of red. There's like a cherry and a raspberry and a strawberry, and maybe strawberry might be pink, but it's the best. You don't have to worry about fucking yellow ones.
I like lemon heads too.
Those are okay. Those hurt my mouth. I'm a pansy with like sour stuff like that.
They hurt, but they hurt so good. They hurt so good.
My mouth is watering right now just thinking about like that.
I love lemon heads. They're the best.
Like I never got into those or Sour Patch Kids or any of that stuff.
I like Sour Patch Kids.
Do you? I sour, and even like today, like sour beers. Get the fuck out of here with that. Don't offer me a sour beer. I will punch you in the face.
We were at a bar downtown a couple weeks ago, and I ordered. I read it wrong. I read the description wrong, and it was a sour beer. I've never tasted anything so fucking disgusting.
They're vile.
It was terrible. And the guy's like, "You like that?" I'm like, "I'm good." He goes, "I'll get you another one." I go, Okay.
Like he knew that it wasn't even a good drink, or he knew you didn't like it.
He knew I liked. He poured it out and got me another.
Oh, that's nice
it
of
was
him.
so fucking
What
gross.
you just missed the word sour, like in it when you were reading the description?
Yes.
Yeah. What'd you get instead?
An IPA.
That's the way to go.
Eventually, Dean took this grooming to a whole nother level and put a pool table in the back of the candy shop. And at this time, he was strictly only associating with boys from about the ages of 10 to 18 years old. These kids would come and go as they pleased, and the only adult he associated with besides his mother was a longtime girlfriend named Betty Hawkins, who we'll get into in part 3. There were also some other signs of things to come. Dean had a temper, but wouldn't show it to anybody. If he got mad, and he was visibly mad when his face would get red and shit, he would go into a back room in the candy factory that employees called the pouting room. No one was allowed in the pouting room, and no one knew what Dean did in there, but he would come out fine like nothing happened. Dean also started to become obsessed with digging. First, he dug up the floor of his pouting room, put wood over the hole, and covered the wood with cement. Then he started going out in the middle of nowhere, digging holes at night. When he was asked about it, Dean said that the candied apples attracted bees and rotten pecans were filled with weevils, and the best way to get rid of them was to bury them far away from the factory. And there's even people quoted in the book that spoke with Jack Olson, and they're like, oh, Dean was such a good boy. He never complained about having to go out and dig those holes to bury apples.
God. Like, are we thinking he was already burying bodies in this hole?
I think so.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Anything else?
I think that Dean Corll started way before his first murder that can be confirmed.
Like you said, he's never spoke. This is all kind of from his mom.
And people who knew him.
And people who knew him. So we're maybe getting part of all of the story correct, but this is what the story is, because this is what we know.
What the story isn't is that he was not actually burying apples.
And I'm sure nothing good was happening in the pouting room.
No, right. Oh, you can't go in there because it's the pouting room. There's not dead fucking kids in there.
While this shit was going on, Mary got married to her third husband, a merchant seaman she met through a new computer dating service. Basically, and it was something that went into downtown Houston. It was basically you filled out a punch card and it was fed into this huge mainframe type computer. And then a couple days later, you would be mailed the results. So Mary got hooked up with this guy and she impulsively married him within like a month of knowing him. And it went south real quick.
No.
He questioned Dean hanging out with all these young boys. And this new husband told Mary that she was being delusional when she swore that Dean wasn't gay. Talking back on it, Mary said, quote, Dean was not a homosexual. He was loyal, obedient, helpful, loving, and a good, normal boy.
Because obviously a homosexual could not be loyal, obedient, helpful, loving, or a good, normal boy.
What I've learned from reading The Man with the Candy is that the worst thing you could do, and this is all of Texas, and I'm sure there are definitely other states in the South. The worst thing you could do was smoke weed or be gay.
Yeah.
Those are
Apparently, right?
The two worst things possible.
I hope people know I was being sarcastic when I.
Oh, yeah. No,
said, okay. Well, I know you guys knew that, but people tuning in for the first time, like that's what a ridiculous statement.
How does this thing work where you put in some data and it spits out semen?
Yeah. The way it was described is like one of those computers that's like a fucking
punch
full
cards
wall.
and stuff.
Yeah. There probably wasn't any computer. They probably just took two people and they're like, oh, these people match.
It's like some guy behind it, just like, all right, this one and this one. Boom.
Yeah, like the DOD had super punch card computers in the 60s. I don't know about this dating service.
In downtown Houston.
I think
sure I'm buying
it was
that.
under the DOD umbrella. That's what it was. They ran it. They were like, oh, Department of Defense, and we'll help you find your significant other. It was also a way because you submit your information to them, Dave, and now they have your information. They can check if you're a commie. It all goes back.
It's true.
It's
all connected, Mike.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
McCarthy was going to get you.
About a year and a half later, Mary's next husband, Walt Colburn, was a huge issue. again, like the merchant seaman, Mary got married to this guy super quick without having any type of feeling out process. Walter suffered from schizophrenia and did not take care of it. This resulted in another divorce in 1968, and Mary went to a psychic who told her that she needed to close the candy factory and get as far away as possible. So that's what she did, and Mary moved to Colorado.
So Dean was 29 at this point, I've calculated, using my superior math skills.
Thanks, pal.
No job now. The candy place is closed.
Nope. What's he going to do, Ian? What's he going to do?
Well, before we get into when Dean gets away from his mom, he's like kind of I think the whole, like digging the holes earlier, he was definitely up to something with that. But I think when Mary left for Colorado is when Dean had all the freedom to do what he really wanted to do.
This guy did not need freedom. No freedom.
No. Side note, Mary was a big fan of psychics.
Of course she was.
There's a lot of talk of psychics, especially in part 2. She said that she went to another psychic about Dean's sexuality, and the psychic said that based on Dean's date of birth and the exact time that he was born, there was astrologically no possible way that Dean was gay. So that put Mary at ease. It was a done deal. Dean was not gay.
Jesus Christ.
Well, that settles it, right, Dave?
Case closed. Final truth.
Has a psychic ever actually been wrong? I'm just saying.
Psychic.
And the quotes are just absurd to read in the book. Like, it's like, oh, don't worry, Mary, your boy's not gay. That would never, something like that would never happen.
What astrological, what zodiac sign was he?
Well, December 24th.
Well, that's my birthday, so he was a Capricorn.
There you go.
Uh-oh.
I can confirm, he's definitely not gay. Uh-oh. So stupid.
Oh, so didn't we discuss, have we discussed this? Are we all Capricorns?
No, I'm an Aquarius.
Fuck you, man. You suck. Aquarius.
Christmas Eve is definitely a Capricorn.
Didn't Lemmy die on your birthday?
He did. Very sad.
Enjoy that, pal.
It's not entirely clear why, but Dean didn't move to Colorado with Mary. Most doctors and experts that have studied this case believe that Dean already had a vast system of grooming young boys and molesting many of them set up in the Heights, so he wasn't going to leave that to start over.
Look, he had the perfect setup, a candy company where he, essentially worked and owned it across the street from an elementary school. He'd put in the work, Probably not going to be easy to get that same setup and start from scratch, right?
Yeah, he had these kids' trust, and they were having like these party kind of deals, these hangouts with the pool table in the back.
I mean, yeah, short of like the school bus dropping them off at your door.
Right, exactly.
Like that's...
You couldn't ask for a better setup.
He had exactly what he needed to start grooming them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want to move to Colorado and set that all up again.
Yeah,
That's a lot of work.
Well, and maybe he wanted to be away from his mom finally. 29 years old, he's ready to spread his wings.
Sure.
That's right. He learned everything he needed to know watching the pigs fuck.
The clitless pigs.
Yes, Dave. No creature on earth has a clit. I'm tired of this fucking, it's as ridiculous as the flat earthers out there. Move on, people. Jesus.
So Dean got a job at the Houston Lighting and Power Company and moved into a shed-like apartment across from Cooley Elementary School. Dean put in a black light, a TV, a stereo, and had an alarm system that would flash a red light in his bedroom if anyone came in unannounced.
Completely normal. Just your everyday American boy.
Like, I say apartment because it did have like a bedroom and stuff, but it for real was basically a shed, yes, that he kind of transformed into an apartment across from an elementary school.
So were there people randomly walking into his house shed? Like, why the red light? Or was it like just
in case the cops came when he was fucking murdering an 8-year-old, I'm sure.
Okay.
Or
that would be my
It was
guess.
just more the precaution. It wasn't like something that was actively happening.
Right.
That's what I meant.
No, yeah, it was definitely to warn him, if someone tried to come when he was...
Or like a parent looking for a kid.
Yeah.
This was something that was like happening all the time because like he didn't have locks on his doors.
Like an early warning system.
Yeah, I got that. Okay.
But the kids all came to hang out at Dean's shed. They thought it was fucking
He's
great.
a cool guy. He had free candy.
Blacklight, a stereo to listen to.
Probably weed.
We'll get to that in part 2. The parties Dean
spoiler,
had.
Dave. Thanks.
The parties Dean had went from. We'll talk about it in part 2, but they went from candy and pop or soda to weed and huffing paint as these kids grew up.
So he was changing with the times. He was progressing.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, no 16-year-old wants candy.
Yeah, that's right.
But
you want to huff
weed and
fucking
huff-
paint like a man.
It just, he knew exactly what he was doing. If there was a 10-year-old there, he'd be like, oh, I got all the soda that you want. If it's a 17-year-old, I got all the weed and cans of spray paint.
29 at this point.
And he
sickening.
only associates with children, boys from 10 to 18. Nobody thinks anything of it because he's sweet Dean Corll. He could never do anything wrong.
See, you don't think there were stories swirling around the neighborhood about this guy across the street from the school who lives in a shed and all the kids congregate there? Like,
I mean, it's hard to say because it was such a different time. Like, people didn't left their doors unlocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is kind of that poor neighborhood where the parents aren't really providing much oversight to the kids. I kind of look at it as
like, oh, they're we know where they're at. They're all hanging out in that same spot. Like, it's like a safe place almost. Like, oh, they're with Dean. They're having fun.
I don't even think it's like that. I don't think the parents are overly concerned with what their kids are doing. Like, do you remember the Outsiders, like the neighborhood that the greasers lived in?
Yeah.
That's the kind of feel I get that this is like.
Well, and that's what I kind of...
Exactly like that.
A poor neighborhood where working class...
I meant like, oh, they're out of our hair. Like, they're over there.
Yeah.
They're not bothering us, asking
Not
for...
overly concerned.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of meant.
Yeah, we're talking about a very poor community, a lot of broken homes, a lot of abusive homes the victims would come from. I think out of all the boys we're going to be talking about as we move forward, at least 28, only 5 had parents that actually looked for them. The rest of them, like, I don't give a fuck about that kid.
There you go.
I don't have to pay for him anymore.
Like in The Outside, Johnny goes home, his parents are fighting, and beat him, and he goes and sleeps in the park on a couch or whatever it was. And
But in this case,
Sounds like an awful movie.
you've never seen The Outsiders?
Why do you have to ask that question?
Oh my
let's move on.
God,
Was it made in the 80s?
Christ.
Was it made in the 80s?
Yes.
It's probably shit. 80s movies are so fucking bad.
Oh my God.
They're glorified.
Oh my God.
And then you watch them and it's like,
God.
why do people watch this? This is so bad.
Have you ever read the book?
I have not.
Book's better.
Yeah.
Who wrote it?
S.E. Hinton.
I'll read the book. I can promise you
Book's
that.
good.
I can't commit myself to sitting there and looking at a screen of 80s filth.
How does it start? As I stepped out into the warm sunlight from the darkness of the movie theater. Isn't that the 1st line of the book? Yeah. And
It's
the,
been a
and the
long
movie.
Yeah. But like you said, Dave, with the poor neighborhood and talking about Outsiders where they told, Johnny goes and sleeps somewhere else. That's a lot of what is happening here.
That's the impression I got. Yeah.
And Dean's waiting with open arms.
Absolutely. As most predators are.
Yeah, he's a true predator through and through.
Apex predator.
Yep.
That's Randy Orton, pal. That's gimmick infringement. You better watch out. The Viper.
So, of course, there was a rotation of young boys and teens hanging out at this apartment. And it was here that Dean would pull David Brooks into his web. David Brooks was born on February 12th, 1955, and we know less about his life than we do about Dean's. After everything was said and done, David Brooks refused to talk to anyone other than his confession to police, which we'll get into later. And his family refused to talk to anyone. What we do know is that David Brooks was one of the kids getting free candy from Dean when Dean was handing out candy at the back of the factory, which David would have been around 12 years old at the time. When David was 14, right in the time frame of this apartment with the blacklight, Dean started giving David money and gifts. In return, David would allow Dean to sexually assault him. Specifically, Dean would like to perform oral sex on David.
And I like that you make the distinction that it's sexual assault because even though he gave permission, a 14-year-old cannot give permission.
No.
Yeah.
And he's paying this kid.
Yeah.
This kid is from a very poor family and not a great family. We're going to talk about his father a bit.
And and we've talked about this before. There's no consensual sex between adults and minors.
Right.
It's assault.
It's just straight up assault. He's raping this kid.
One thing David did say was that Dean was the only person who didn't make fun of him for his glasses or called him the F word, being a slur for gay person. And this included adults like David's own father. David saw Dean as a father figure type person. And you can see it. You look at a picture of David Brooks from back then. He's skinny. He has glasses. He looks like someone that in this kind of rough neighborhood, he would immediately be singled out as like the weakling.
So he picked him out, clearly, and groomed him.
There's a reason why David Brooks survives this story.
Yep.
David Brooks dropped out of high school in 1969, the same year Dean started to sexually abuse him, and his father kicked him out of the house. So David went to live with his mother in Beaumont, Texas. David would come back to the Heights to visit his father, but it was more to visit Dean. Then in 1970, David moved back to the Heights with his father, but this was pretty much living with Dean full time. I'm not sure if David just told his mother that he was moving back in with his father and just moved in with Dean, or how it exactly worked. But on December 13th, 1970, David walked in on Dean and two naked boys, one strapped to his torture board and the other on the bed. The torture board being a slab of unpainted plywood 8 feet long and 2 feet wide with holes drilled into each corner. Dean would use the board by handcuffing a victim's hands to the top holes and binding their feet with nylon rope through the bottom holes. So that's quite the shock for David to walk in on that.
Fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
David immediately turned around and left, but a couple days later he went back to Dean's apartment because he has nowhere else to go. Really, he doesn't have, his dad's calling him, abusing him verbally with the whole gay thing. And
he's what, only 14, 15 years old?
16.
16, yeah.
Are you not scared for your life?
But it's a father figure. So maybe in your mind, you're like, well,
Yeah, it's hard to put yourself in that spot.
You justify it as like, oh, well, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dean explained to David that he was part of a national sex ring for child pornography. And another excuse he would give David and future accomplice, Elmer Wayne Henley Jr., was that he was selling these boys into a sex trafficking ring. We know Dean murdered boys based on what we're going to talk about in a minute, but there might be some truth to his claim of a sex ring, which I don't understand why that's like the better excuse. The way that that's always told is like, don't worry about it. I'm just selling these boys into sex slavery. Like, that's worse.
Is it not wild that he let him just turn around and walk out the door, though? It's a lot of confidence that
I think he had
the kid under his control, that he would come back and not report him. Although, nothing would happen if it reported him anyway. So,
but that also makes you think
the police would have been like, what?
Yeah,
that's true. But I think that goes back to things we've talked about with every other killer. How long has this been going on? Maybe he had gained that confidence to the point where he was feeling invincible, untouchable, as a lot of these serial killers that we talk about do.
I feel like he was already burying people in that hole in the shot. Yeah.
And he knew how the way the police worked. He knew that, hey, I'm literally killing these kids or assaulting them as they're coming out of school, and nobody has even, furrowed their brow at me. Like nothing has happened.
Oh, David, he'll be back.
Right.
What's he going to do? He's not going to. Who's going to believe him?
Yeah. Who's going to believe that the nice candy man did anything? So that just goes to say how long had this been going on now that he had already been at that point, maybe
completely emboldened.
We had the confidence.
Yep.
And I can completely see that from reading the book, The Candyman, interviews with people from that town, from the Heights. I could easily see someone, if David Brooks came to someone and was like, Dean has 2 kids, like naked and tied up in his apartment, they'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? That's not happening. You probably would get accused of smoking weed and get in trouble.
Yeah, right. And then you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, they call the cops on him, and the police would come and arrest him. And
regarding there being some truth to Dean's claims of being a part of a sex ring, on August 15th, 1973, police in Dallas uncovered a nationwide sex trafficking ring of young men, teenage boys, and boys as young as 10 years old. Police seized a card filing system that contained around 10,000 names of, some of them were of age, but a lot of them were underage and victims, and some of them were known to be at minimum acquaintances of Dean Corll. Furthermore, in March of 1975, Houston police, through a sting operation, arrested 5 individuals for possessing child pornography. There were 16 boys in these pictures, with the youngest being 8 years old. And 11 of the boys out of these 16 were known victims of Dean Corll. So at the time that those pictures were found, those kids were already dead.
Yeah. I read today the New York Times story from 1973 about when this was uncovered. How do you think things like this worked in 1973 without the internet? Like, how do these people find each other? Was it coded messages and magazines, kind of underground? How does
But
that
then
even-
how do you figure it out? Like, how would
How
someone
does
like
that
Dean Corll
work?
learn that?
Right.
Like,
And how-
someone had to introduce him to it then, right?
Right. How does stuff like that work without an internet?
How do people live without internet?
He was obviously a part of this to some degree.
100%.
Yeah.
But again, like for someone like him who seemed, from what we have heard, to be antisocial, didn't associate with anyone other than kids and his mom, how did he fall into this?
Like
how did he
this-
become part of it? Someone had to groom him into it.
Right. This ring was nationwide. Like these people, these boys, some were adults, some were kids, the victims.
Yeah.
Would fly around the country and stay a couple days with this person. They would buy them a plane ticket to fly to the next person. How do you set all that up without the internet?
I think what you said, coded messages,
Like, how do you?
But then
burner phone lines, because there was no
I
burner
don't
phone,
know.
so it's like some
Right.
weird phone numbers.
But then that again goes back to then how does someone like a Dean Corll become involved in that?
How do you find each
Who
other?
taught him, hey, here's the codes you look for. Here's the phone number.
Like, there's a lot of kookiness going on today, like QAnon, for example. Mm-hmm. But before the internet, these kooks were just all on their own. They didn't have a way to reach each other. But the internet allowed
Gun shows. Remember? Oklahoma City, that's how they all
it
found
allowed
each other.
these kooky people to network with each other. And now we have things like QAnon where
I'm
all
not going to
these
sit here, Dave, and let you tell me that JFK Jr. is not still alive and is going to be on the Republican ticket in 2024.
But like QAnon wasn't possible before the internet because these people had no way to network with their kooky ideas and to, implant these ridiculous
Right.
things into
It-
other
it's
people's brain. How did people in 1973 network child sex rings across the country is my question.
Would it be the same thing like a bookie taking bets?
But a bookie knows his people, right?
'Cause
Like
they're-
you work face to face with him.
But there's a central hub here in Dallas, obviously, because they got 10,000 a card filing system of names.
So but then somebody found Dean and said, okay, here's how it's going to go.
But like, okay, so there was a bookie that I know of or knew of in high school through a friend. I wouldn't be able to just go to that guy and be like, hey, I want to place a bet. He'd be like, who the fuck are you and what are you talking about? But if I went through my friend's dad,
Sure.
I could place a bet. I wonder if Dean had a relationship with someone and it just,
Locally, but those were nationwide. Like, how did someone in New York City get the? And I read it was like a $15 monthly membership to be in this club.
to what? What do you
to
sign
have
that?
access to
But
that
what- to
10,000.
access to those
Right. But like, you're writing a check or a money order to what? Some dude in Palm Beach, Florida? Enron? I mean, who are we writing checks to?
It was called the Odyssey Foundation, and it had a San Diego post office box. Like, how does that work?
Even, I mean, I guess it would be with the dark web, but I was gonna say even today, there's things that happen. I don't. It's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, like maybe I'm just an Ohio rube, but I know some stuff.
But what do you mean by that? Like why do you like? We're
Maybe-
but we're talking 50, 60 years ago when they didn't have this? And that's the questions we're asking, right?
I know some things about crime and how criminal enterprises work, and I'm just trying to think through how a nationwide sex trafficking ring of young boys got together in 1973 and paid $15 to join this Odyssey Club. Like, how did it work? Is it just word of mouth? Maybe it's just word of mouth. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I'm sure that there's levels. Like, you can't just go and get a membership right off the bat or something. There has to be some type of system of.
I don't even want to know what that system is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's so fucking.
And your bookie
scary.
point is it's a good point. And back in the 90s, when a lot of the bookmaking operations were still going on in Cleveland, I think the main guy got taken down like at the end of the 90s. But yeah, everyone went through the same person.
Right.
There were sub bookies and sub bookies who.
It's not like it's not like all these guys that would be using the system are just like out in public like, oh, I'm a pedophile. You know what I mean? Like there's a big layer of secrecy to these people.
Yeah.
They're not meeting up at McDonald's every Tuesday for coffee and egg McMuffins. It's a pedophile club.
And some of this, it wasn't all pedophile either. I think there was a lot of just of age male escort
Yes.
part of this whole operation.
Where I think we're just talking more about, Dean and his thing. But again, that I keep going back to then that I'm intrigued by how he got involved in this. Did someone see him with his setup and was like, God damn, that's grade A location. And they show up and like, oh, he's already digging holes. He's one of us.
Yeah.
He's already a level 2 audited Scientologist.
I just
whatever
think
their fucking whatever their level is, not Scientology, but
where everything's at your fingertips these days, it's just hard to imagine how to set up a crime ring like this in the 70s, a nationwide crime ring.
I don't even like making phone calls these days. I would not survive anymore if you took away technology. I'm not calling people.
Yeah, like you're on your rotary phone calling Dallas from New York. Hello, can I get a young boy delivered to me in Manhattan tomorrow? Like, it's just weird, right? How does that work? I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's a scary thought. It's scary to even think that.
It's scary to this day.
Yeah, I mean, this story is the closest to. We would talk about, like, I know we get requests for Peter Scully. We've got requests for that guy in the past. This is as close as.
Isn't that the dude from X-Files?
It's not. It kind of sounds like it.
Oh.
This is the closest we'll ever get to covering that. I can't do an episode on that.
I don't know that. I don't really know that much about Peter Scully.
It's David Duchovny, right? He was on X-Files.
He was from Australia and ran a child sex trafficking ring.
Oh, I know who that is. Okay.
Yeah, there's that creepypasta online about a video, and I always thought it was a creepypasta.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then
it's real, and it kind of shattered life for me.
I know exactly. Never mind. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Doing the kid stuff is not fun.
So that's what I mean.
Like,
it's not.
We're doing Dean Corll. People requested it, but this is not. This is sickening stuff for us. We don't like covering it. How about instead, like, we'll just end this one now, and then for the next 2 weeks, we'll talk about, like, The Rock's wrestling career. I'll do the outline. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, this story is it's like a bold reminder that the world is not a good place.
It most certainly is not.
I told you guys, or just the other day, like, I still laugh at, like, that meme that people put out of, like, when aliens fly by Earth, they roll their windows up. They're fucking right.
They'd be like,
Earth,
nope.
Earth fucking sucks. We're Trashville, USA.
You are not lying.
So when David Brooks walked in on Dean having 2 boys in his bedroom, it's safe to assume that those boys were 14-year-old James Glass and 14-year-old Danny Yates. The boys were last seen on December 13th, 1970 at an anti-drug youth rally at a church in the Heights.
Dave was there.
The boys went.
I was 2 years old, asshole.
Yeah. Well,
the boys went with their father and James's older brother, Willie. James's father said that James and Danny seemed to be restless, like they didn't want to be there, and they said they were going to go to the bathroom. They got up, walked out the auditorium door, and that's the last time anyone saw them alive.
Let me retract that. In 1973, I was 2 years old. In 1970, I wasn't born, asshole.
Was this 19? Oh, it was.
I was looking at the prior paragraph about the bust in 1973.
Man, that's disappointing because I was just happy you admitted you were alive for one of my jokes for
I
once.
was not alive in 1970. Fuck off.
This is just a terrifying paragraph as well.
Yeah, we have no idea how Dean Corll met or knew these boys. Danny's older sister later realized that Dean Corll matched the description of a man that Danny talked about who would buy the boys beer. The Glass and Yates family reported the boys as missing, but they were both marked as runaways trying to join the hippie movement. Based on police learning that James Glass was arguing with his father about not wanting to get his hair cut.
Come on.
Yeah, the Glass and Yates family were two families that were looking for their children. They were very upset at the fact that the police were like, no, they took off.
Fuck them, right?
Yeah, they took off.
They're hippies.
Yeah.
We can't help you.
Oh, he didn't want to
Sorry.
get a haircut? Fuck him. Hippie.
Commie bastard.
Get out of here. Piece of shit. Because kids are never afraid to go get their hair cut. And then you fucking watch Edward Scissorhands and you're like, oh no, hell no.
Edward Scissorhands.
James Glass and Danny Yates were the first of a minimum of 28 confirmed boys murdered by Dean Corll, and that's where we will pick back up on part 2.
That's a hell of a setup, man.
Yeah, you did good work on that one.
And I know it's coming next week, and it's not good.
I don't because I haven't read the notes yet. Did you ever read the notes? You just know the story.
No, but I know.
Of course
it's
I know.
coming.
Yeah, next week we'll...
Well, based on what the teaser, it's not great.
No, we still have 28 more kids to get to.
Oh, can't wait. Go ahead. What are you going to say next week?
Next week we'll talk about David Brooks a little more, like that evolving relationship. We'll get into Elmer Wayne Henley Jr. will show up in the story, and some more police just not giving a fuck.
Got to get to that 3:00 happy hour.
Yeah,
I like happy hour.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like a 3:00 happy hour too. I'm also not responsible for investigating murders.
or missing people, or
All right. We've got some new patron shout outs. Thank you very much to CJ Pedraza, Zoe Fuller, Christina, Tasha Lane, Katie, Joe Dirt, Megan Wesley, Corrine Haltman, Audie 3000, Mike's long lost testicle. I didn't lose a testicle. Maybe I had 3.
Maybe you did.
That's why I'm a bull. Sarah Stewart, Shelby Chillington, Chris Martin. Isn't Chris Martin the lead singer of Coldplay?
He most certainly is. Mr. Gwyneth Paltrow previously.
Well, thanks, Coldplay. Apparently they're patrons. William, Riley Silvis, Murder Incorporated, NZ, maybe from New Zealand.
Maybe.
Jasmine Christine, Andrea Boley, Anita Dick, Dave.
That's not me.
Oh, that should have Dave.
Absolutely not.
Beta male cockroach. Wow, I think I banged his wife. Wilma Dickfit. That's Dave.
That's not me.
Stop it. That's a good one. Martin Guerra. My beaver stinks. That's you.
That's mine.
Didn't you just do that one recently? Or
Did I? I don't know.
Yeah.
Did I repeat myself?
No, I think you did.
God damn it.
I think you did because I read it wrong the first time as May.
Oh.
Beaver stinks and it's my. You did a my something. Fuck. That's a good one, Dave. You did well. Jen Sandwich, Andrew Derringer.
Like Jen likes to get DP'd, so she's like a Jen sandwich. Her boyfriend and her bull.
Wow, we're slaying everybody, right? Poor Jen just wanted to listen to some bonus shows. Nicole N. Rinkaneva, Taylor Loricella, Rachel Ring, Donald LeBlanc, DeRucifer, Trenton Ireland, DB Drunken Stupor, Ryan Crowley, cuck her in the fart box with a Speedway hot dog while slapping her hairy beaver. Oh my.
It's a lot of words.
Is that his request? He wants me to come bang his wife out with a
Apparently,
Speedway
yeah.
hot dog? Well, I mean, I'm bigger than a Speedway hot dog.
You're like You're like banging her while you're eating a Speedway hot dog,
Oh, now we're talking.
like Lumberg in Office Space.
Oh. Was he eating something though, or you just mean like her ankles are like on my shoulders, and I'm just like.
In Peter's dream, like her legs are up. He had his cup of coffee, and he's like,
that's what he's drinking. I'm spilling chili all down like my shirt onto her vag.
Peter, if you could go ahead and come in this weekend, that'd be great.
He would be so lucky as to get to eat my cream pie with a little chili sauce on it.
Jesus.
Angie Myers, Adam Gallus, Paul Kaza, Sierra Macy, pretty broke. John R. Maj, Georgia Theodorus, Nicole Caldwell, Cashel Peckler, Lucy Bean, Madison Costanzo, Katie Titus, Walta Tankersley, Syndrome of a Down. Thank you all very much. Patreon.com/Necronomipod. Ian.
For iTunes, I have one for Misha Marie, D. Farley, J. Wyckoff, Cap for Prez, Gase 1010, Mike's Taint,
Hey, thanks.
ABCZX, Your Mom's Fupa. Mark versus Food is back once again.
No shout out for Mark versus Food. No, absolutely not.
It's the worst.
Not a Serial Doubter, Stacy J, Mike is Annoying.
Wow, that's bold.
Mike is annoying, but we got 5 stars.
Yeah, so
I'll fucking take that. You kidding me?
the title of the review is Necronomipod. The username is Mike is Annoying, and the actual review is just good.
All right. Maybe it's a woman and her husband's name is Mike, and she just wanted to like get that off her chest.
That's probably what it is.
Maybe.
If she calls me, I'll put something on her chest.
And Rage 0809, thank you for the awesome reviews.
Internationally, Dave, where we at?
None. I got none.
Wah, wah.
Come on, really? Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders.
Are we losing our fan base?
I don't know what's happening. Norway, Poland, where you at? Iran? Come on.
We've had.
Don't let the Ayatollah tell you what to do. Submit a fucking review. Fuck the Ayatollah. Fuck him in his asshole. Ow! I'm going to get a fatwa on me. I apologize, Ayatollah.
That'd be all right.
I was only joking.
Hey, that's good for business. We need a fatwa on Dave. We've heard from many women and men who are serving overseas that listen to us. If they leave us a review, I think that counts as an international review, right?
Oh, 100% it does.
Send us some reviews, people. The real heroes out there listening to our fucking 3 drunk asses just talk.
Sure.
If we entertain you, let us know. We're going to give you a special shout out.
We might even send you something.
Maybe we even need to just do like a military shout outs. It's for people who are serving in general that listen to us.
We 100% will, of course.
Yeah.
I know we have a handful.
We have a more than I would have ever imagined. We get those messages sometimes from people like, I'm serving overseas and, you guys help me get through the day or whatever, and, listen. And that's extremely
Nothing
humbling.
makes me feel better.
Yeah, it's so
I
fucking
cool. Love it.
Oh, I don't know. Well, just hit us up on the socials, a DM, or email us at, necronomipod@outlook.com if you're a current or active member of our military and you listen to us. News shout out. And Dave, you can read those ones because apparently the international ones have fizzled out.
Losers. Yeah. Where's my Polish friends? Come on, motherfuckers. What are you doing?
God damn.
Denmark. Come on, Sweden. What are you doing?
All right, we'll
Portugal.
Step up, people.
Germany, France.
Well, we probably pissed Australia off. Right?
Slovakia.
They're done with us.
Kazakhstan.
Well, nice. I like your podcast. You make a sexy time away from my wife. She is 12. High five.
It's not good for me.
Are we probably in this show? There's been some vodka had.
Good show.
I didn't ask final thoughts, and usually we do that. But
Look, kind of part one, I'm going to save my final thoughts till part 2 or part 3. But based on what's coming up, I'm not hopeful. It's not good things in this story. There's nothing good about this story.
there's no turnaround with this.
No, there's no redeeming quality. This guy's not in heaven partying with Jesus. He's not a good person.
But if he would have asked for forgiveness before he died, would he not be in heaven, Dave?
Of course he would.
Per
That's
the
how it
Bible?
works, Mike.
Just got to ask once. You got final thoughts, Ian? I know you've already you've been diving in with the books and the research. You want to save it? Or you got anything else for this part 1?
Yeah, I feel like because I, break kayfabe a bit. We have a pretty hectic August schedule, so I read the book in 2 days. I'm already done with the part 2 outline, so I feel like anything I'm going to talk about is probably going to spoil part 2 or have to.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, if Dave didn't take so many fucking vacations in August, we wouldn't have so much trouble with our schedule. God damn.
I'm taking exactly the same amount of vacation as you are in August, my friend.
Let's have this conversation in September. Let's have this conversation in September.
I'm going on a long vacation in September.
We have to start recording now just to get through October.
I will be overseas for a long time next month.
You're doing a
fuck you guys.
He's out of here. He's done. Taking applications to fill in for Dave. If you can also 10 bar, that's a plus. You can edit shows, triple plus. All right. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Necronomipod, patreon.com/Necronomipod for all of our bonus content, and Amazon.com. Search Necronomipod for our merch. I think we still got stickers, right? At Necronomipod.com.
100%.
There you go. Thanks.
All right, you guys ready for a cool down beer?
Cheers.